Today we're jumping into my 4 favorite games of 2022. Quick caveat, a majority of the new games I played were from September, October, and onward, as I've really only just started to do review and impression content. Because of that, the list is mostly pulling from those games, plus games I was excited about earlier in the year. Number 4, I See Red. This game isn't the best game, but considering the price and my expectations for edgy twin sticks, it earned a place on my top 4. I think every part of this game was satisfying while introducing a grappling hook arm, which is always a great addition in a game. There are plenty of guns and items dropping regularly, and the limited ammo for each weapon make sure you're switching. The pacing for that and for each of the other weapons also feels really good, so you're not holding on to weapons for too long, and you're not like firing one shot and like, ah fuck, I gotta drop it. The game did have me scared with the edgy aesthetic at first, as I mentioned, but the game has fun with it instead of taking itself too seriously. On the note of aesthetics, the game's looks can get in the way. Sometimes the very intense reds and intense whites can obscure things in the middle of larger fights, where you don't see certain things, or it can be difficult to tell exactly where you're aiming. That said, it was never to such a detriment that it made the game unfun. Number 3, Corman. This game was very refreshing to play after having played Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on launch. I'm sad I didn't see this when it originally came out, but I'm really glad to have found it. I think of it as sort of Pokemon Emerald Plus. There are a lot of quality of life changes made, including getting easy access to resetting stats, the ability to change moves within each Corman's move summary, as well as teleporting that is unlocked at the beginning of the game when you reach each city. The game also has built-in difficulty scaling, which allows you to play the game on harder difficulties as well as an easier one. With that difficulty slider, it does allow you to effectively have the Nuzlocke rules built in. In addition to the technical changes, the narrative is also very enjoyable. While it's nothing too serious, it's definitely fun and interesting. It always kept me engaged the entire time, and I wanted to see what was going to happen next. Number 2, Chained Echoes. Holy shit, such a sleeper game. I hadn't really seen anything about the game until I was looking at releases when I started doing videos, and I put it on my list as like, hey, maybe I'll play it. I'm so glad I did. This game has great characters and great writing. The party of characters all have a really good dynamic. It really hit me about somewhere around 5 hours in when the party was sitting at a campfire. It really gives off some really good D&D vibes too. The party was sitting around and giving some exposition on their backstories to each other. It was a really cute moment that made me really enjoy the game. The basics of combat are serviceable, and I think that's fine for a JRPG. That said, there is at least one amazing addition. Your party is completely healed after each fight. It allows you to give everything you have on every fight, which feels good compared to other games in the genre. As I've gotten more and more into the game, because I keep playing it even after I wrote the initial script for this, the fights are getting more challenging, and that's probably because I don't want to do the planning and prep parts because my brain doesn't like it. But I've been forced to do it, and it's not that like that's bad, but I'm getting off track here because this is all unscripted. The autosave mechanics are very nice. It autosaves before every battle, and so if you do lose a battle, you're not like screwed over, and it doesn't make you redo 30 minutes or hours of content over. It just says, hey, do you want to retry that fight? It's such a peace of mind mechanic. It's so nice, and I would like to see that included in a lot of games going forward. Onto the healing after. It also makes it so that every fight can be a little more challenging, since the developers don't need to be worried about you coming in with varying levels of health and TP, which is their version of mana, whatever. Ultimately, this gets a strong recommendation for anyone ranging from fans of the genre to those curious about giving JRPGs a try. Number 1, Blacktail. Another wonderful game to wrap up the year with. I was scared when I realized that the game had crafting survival mechanics in it, but I can pleasantly report that at the very least, they don't seem to be weighing the game down. Most of the reason for this game being number 1 is the unique setting being well executed. On top of the unique setting, the game gets so much more right. The characters are fun, memorable, engaging, the story's intriguing and well-paced, and combat is fun and varied. Ultimately, the combat is probably the worst part of the game for me, but that isn't meant to necessarily be a knock about the game. The combat's very enjoyable, and the simple premise of having a bow is quickly expanded upon. You have a wide variety of tools that you can use to approach fights, and while the game sometimes likes to throw surprise enemies at you, You're equipped with tools to redirect or dash away, giving you time and space to play the fights out. There are segments that occur after the boss fights that are side-scrolling platformy bits. I'm not entirely against them, but I do think they overstay their welcome. If the duration of these was cut in half, I think I wouldn't mention these as a negative. If anything, maybe it could turn into a positive. That being said, they are few and far between, and everything else is absolutely spot on for what I wanted. I feel like this game should be on most people's list for games to play if it isn't already. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe. I should have at least 1 or 2 more list videos coming out to wrap up the year before we start getting into more first impressions and review content in 2023. If you agree, disagree with any of the opinions, want to discuss games you've played, games that were on my list, please feel free to comment below. Thank you so much. Have a nice one.